Hello, everybody. It's Lamont, the Lion Tamer Downs, and welcome to Fighting Words. This is our very first episode, and today we're going to talk about kids in martial arts, kids competing, and what people think about the age, equipment used. Because, in countries like Thailand, they're fighting from basically when they're out the womb, and over here, it's a little more protective of kids, and I just want to get people's thoughts and opinions on the subject. But first, I'm gonna get my little bag workout in, and then we'll get into this episode. All right, our first guest, introduce yourself.
Melvin Bradford, aka Mizukage.
Alright, well, Melvin here is also a mixed martial artist, a competitive athlete. Today we're talking about kids competing, and I wanted to get various people's opinions on whether they feel kids should compete, at what age they should start competing, and what guidelines should they follow while competing as far as like protective equipment. Because like in Thailand they don't wear gear, but over here we're like more protective. And do you think that's a good thing for kids learning? Do you think that's holding them back? I wanted to ask you being a parent of somebody in a martial arts, your daughter's taking Taekwondo. So what's your opinions on the subject?
I feel, well, over there in Thailand, they're not, I guess they don't have the right equipment as we do. I mean, I'm pretty sure they do, but they don't have the money, they don't have the funds to get the protection they need. Versus us, we have protection everywhere. We can go to the store here and there, we have the money. But I feel like kids over here, they tend to, not want to do it if they get hit too hard without the pads, So if they feel they need the pad, they're like, oh, let me go get geared up so I don't get hurt. Versus kids over there that's been doing it since birth, they're used to the pain, so they're like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need no gloves, I don't need no shin pads, I'll just kick this tree down, like we see in the videos. But kids over here, they're, they put the gloves on, they feel protected. So that's why they always run to get the pads, and they're like, okay, let's go.
Do you feel that holds them back? Like, just imagine us as adults, we train with the same gear that we're referring to, shin pads, really large gloves, but when that translates to actual self-defense or the actual fights where, since we are competitive athletes, we know that we wear 16s for practice, and then we might wear 8-ounce, 12-ounce gloves in the fight, and there's a difference in the padding. You doing mixed martial arts, you're wearing 4-ounce gloves. Is there like a big difference to where if I haven't been using, or I have been using too much padding, and then I get into the real thing, and it's like the first time I'm being hit or having to hit without the protection, do you think, at what point should you like wean the kids off of padding? Because in a real life situation, let's say they had to defend themselves and all they ever use is pads, they attack one time, they hurt themselves, and then they're gonna feel like all the training went out the window.
Yeah, it's a big difference, because I've been through that before. I've used gloves before in training. I'm like, okay, I'm good with this. I went out, got into it with somebody, and I'm like, oh snap, like this feels so different. So with the kid, with my daughter's age, my daughter's 7 years old. You've seen her, she does Taekwondo, and she's so used to the gloves that she's always wanting to hit with the gloves, and versus her wanting to hit with less power now without the gloves, because she plays with me trying to spar, and she doesn't have her gloves on, so she lays off her power. Because she doesn't have the gloves. But when she does have it, she goes she goes full along with it.
Which is smart, because even on the bag, if you don't have gloves on, you're not always going to hit as hard as you would.
So that bag's pretty hard.
Yeah. As far as competing, do you see her competing anytime soon, or are you waiting? What's your feelings on kids competing?
It's really up to the kid, really. I mean, it's either up to the kid or the parent. The parent can say yes, the kid can say no. Some parents try to force their kids into doing something they don't want to, and the kid goes out there, after being forced, and they wind up getting hurt, because the parent forced them. Because, they're like, oh, my kid is, a brown belt in Taekwondo, so I'm gonna throw him out there, versus the kid doesn't want to do it.
Exactly.
But if the kid does want to do it, then I say go ahead, let them do it. If they feel they want to do it, let them do it. But it's vice versa. If the kid says yes, parent says no, or parent says yes, kid say no, it's iffy. It's 50-50.
Well, I believe that's where sparring comes in, because with any martial arts, whether it be Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Kung Fu, if you don't have like a practical practice or experience, it's like hard to relate to a real life situation. That's why, like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some people, they're afraid that they don't want to compete, they don't feel comfortable competing, but you don't know whether you're, like say we practice, me and you, we practice, we might practice, okay, I can throw this kick, you can hit that bag as hard as you want with the kick, you can hit the pad as hard as you want, but then you get in a real situation and now you're frightened because you never had to throw the kick hard on somebody, so you don't throw it with the right power, or you just don't know the timing or the spacing. So it's like, I feel, as you feel, that it's to the kid, can't force them, and it's to the parent to allow them. But a lot of people look at it like it's too brutal for kids to either compete, or they look at kids sparring and they're like, oh my goodness, why are y'all doing that? It's too rough on the kids. But it's almost like everything they're learning is pointless without some level of competition to get used to the movements without necessarily the intent to like harm, because like street fights, they can end up being fatal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So can competitions, but your intent is to win, not necessarily to permanently damage your opponent.
Yeah.
So even if it's like a sport competition, like these things, there's like a level to where kids should compete, or should they be on the same playing field as the adults?
I feel there should be like a level, and somewhat on the same level as adults. I mean, if they are a certain rank, in whatever style they're taking, I feel they should go against that same level. Well, that same rank. Like if they're a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, I say yeah, depending. I mean, in the jiu-jitsu world, which I know, like 2 stripes on your white belt, you can go against a blue belt, and that's what I feel like you can go. Some can go against with the blues, and with the blues, you can go with the purples, then the purples go with the browns and all that. Like I've seen, a few tournaments where lower ranks have gone against the higher ranks, but those higher ranks just became, that higher rank. So a purple belt just became a brown belt, so they're still going with the purples, So with the kids, I say if they're, like an orange belt Taekwondo, I feel they should still go with their level, and they can maybe go with a higher level if they, if they feel comfortable going against a higher level. If they, if there is a higher level in their class and they've gone against that higher level, then they can go into a tournament, comfortable, like, yeah, it's like, well, he's a blue belt in Taekwondo, he's higher than me, and I've gone against him, so okay, I'll go against him. But then again, you don't know his experience.
Sure. But do you think that should be limited to the traditional martial arts, the Taekwondo, karate, or is that for like all combat sports? Because like some people don't feel kids should be boxing or doing Muay Thai or kickboxing.
Like I said, I mean, it's really up to the kid, really. I mean, if they want to do it, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm not going to hold my kid back from doing something, she wants to do. And if I'm teaching someone's kid, I'm like, hey, I'm just teaching your kid. If your kid wants to do it, I'm with them. I'll show them what and what, go out and protect themselves. And if they don't feel like, they're ready for it, then
well, the reason I asked that is because, like you were saying, like if somebody's at a certain belt level, it's okay for them to compete with other people of similar belt levels. Yeah. But like in a lot of times in combat sports or Muay Thai, boxing, they don't have belts. Yeah. Now they're gonna match you up with people with similar amounts of fights, but that skill level can vary vastly. You can have two people with no fights, but one's completely better. You know what I'm saying? Now, is that
training?
You know what I'm saying? Is that too? Yeah. Or some people are just naturally athletic. Do you feel at that point do you feel it's okay for kids to compete in certain sports like that when you just can't tell how good that person's gonna be stepping in?
Not really. I mean, if they don't have the right training, or the right knowledge behind it. I mean, yeah, like you say, there's kids and adults that are naturally athletes.
Mm-hmm.
They can just go out and do whatever sport and it's nothing to them. Versus somebody that's never done a sport, that's never played basketball. They try for the first time and like, man, I'm not that good. Versus this kid, he's never done it, but he's making threes like day and night, like it ain't nothing. So with Muay Thai and kickboxing, boxing, there's no ranks in that. So you just have to go based off your weight class, your experience, and however many fights you've had. I mean, this kid, they've never fought before, on the stage. So they're like, well, let's just see who's better than who's gonna be the better fighter tonight.
So like you said, it brought up about the team sports, basketball. Do you think it's good for kids to do other sports before they try something like fighting?
If they want. I mean, yeah. I mean, my daughter, she did soccer for a little bit, and then I asked her, I said, hey, you want to try Taekwondo? She said, yeah, I'll try it. And I was like, all right. So I brought her in. She fell in love with it, and ever since then, she'll do Taekwondo up until soccer time. When soccer comes up, she's doing soccer and Taekwondo. Oh. So she's doing both sports, and then when soccer's over, she goes to play basketball while still doing Taekwondo. And I think in January she'll be doing football, flag football.
She'll be all around after.
Yeah, so like I say, it's up to the kid really. I mean, if they want to come in and try it, I suggest just let your kid come in and try it. You can't. I mean, don't force them to do something that you want to do. Yeah, if you want to do that, then you go do it. Don't push your kid to do something that you wished that you could have did at their age. You still. There's 100-year-old men just now becoming blue belts in jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha.
So I mean, age ain't nothing but a number. You can still do it. I mean, if you're forcing your kid to do it, that kid's not gonna last that long, and you're basically wasting your money. But if your kid comes in and falls in love with it, then just you get your money's worth.
I think that falls into like parents that. There's one side that says like it's too brutal, but then there's the other side that they were an athlete in that sport and then they push that same sport on their kids.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the times, like from watching going to competitions, like when I compete at maybe not at the fights, because sometimes they do mostly boxing for kids. They've been doing that lately in the cage and even in the ropes. But as far as like MMA and this and that, I think there's like different rules and guidelines. But at the sport competitions where it's like no headshots, stuff like that, they have like more regulations, more like grappling competition and some some allow striking, but the kids are more technically adept. I should say, like they fight more technical than some adults, and I think it's because what we were saying about athleticism. Kids might not necessarily be naturally strong, so they rely on technique. A lot of times we see adults do flashy movements and get like highlight reel knockouts, but it might not have been the most technical move. They're just so powerful, you know what I'm saying, or big, you know what I'm saying. Me and you both pushing, 190 pounds walking around, you know what I'm saying, on a regular, like we cut for the fights, but you know what I'm saying, what we could generate at 190 pounds is different than like you say your 7-year-old daughter, but she might hit us 10 times, like practicing, she might hit us 10 times, but of course we can't hit her full blast because all it takes is one. But so they actually, I feel like somebody who starts out young and their body grows into it are like better fighters than maybe like me. I started in my adult life, and now I'm working on flexibility that kids naturally have. You know what I'm saying?
It's harder for us, just starting now. If we would have started, their age, we would be, doing backflips in our fights and stuff like it ain't nothing, doing splits. That's why I say if you, don't push it on them. If they see it on TV, if they see their friends doing it, let them go do it. Let them try it, And if they like it, go let them do it. But if you feel it's too brutal, then pat them up.
Well, it's like in Thailand, they fight for a living. They're feeding their families at a young age. Over here, kids, we provide for them as best as we can. Over there, their kids providing for parents and family. You know what I'm saying? But I personally feel, it's my opinion, that when somebody says it's too brutal, you're telling somebody, like, it's the opposite of forcing them. Now we're excluding them from something that they could potentially be very good at. You know what I'm saying? It might be their outlet to a better life. You know what I'm saying? Like, say somebody's not particularly good in school, and then we try to force school on them, and then they just feel inadequate. But then they might be the best fighter in the world, but no, you're too young for that. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
But and that's what like any trade, you know what I'm saying. There's certain things you're good with, and it's not like we're promoting people street fighting and this and that. We're talking about kids actually getting proper training. You know what I'm saying? Proper conditioning. Probably end up being on better diets than they would have been.
Our age.
You know what I'm saying? Our age in the United States, because our diets are horrible. But
versus over there, they go and get their food, right there in their backyard. They just go down to the river and be fishing while we can just go to the grocery store and get that same exact fish. It's already cut up, skinned, everything. We just throw it on the grill, boom. They gotta actually sit there and wait, catch the fish, boom. Their diet's right there. But, with fight world, with the fight sports, some are, it depends on the fight really. The fight, yes, the fight world can be brutal, but it really depends on your fight. Like me and you, we've fought a few times, not each other, but we've had a few fights, and we've yet to have a brutal fight. We've had injuries, but we've never had a brutal fight yet. We've seen brutal fights, but it wasn't because, of the hatred between the two people, the robbery or nothing. It's just they hit each other a few times and boom, one gets cut here, one gets cut there. And that's why people say it's a brutal sport. It's a brutal, the fight world is brutal. It's not really brutal, world. It's just depending on your fight. It depends on you and your opponent. Depending on how y'all go about the fight. If y'all see blood and you go after the blood,
But that goes to football. We have kids playing football, you know what I'm saying, every year.
Yeah.
But there's more concussions in football than fighters. Like, you're made, I mean, the whole sport is made to slam each other around. But people are okay with that. But then maybe boxing is a little different because your main target is the head. You know what I'm saying? But in like kickboxing, mixed martial arts, if you don't want to get hit a lot, there's the option, if you have the skill set, to take it to the ground and you can lessen some of those hits. It's just like all sports in general, any contact sport is gonna have its dangers, but how is that not too brutal and fighting is too brutal? You know what I'm saying? That's how I hear. But everybody is entitled to their opinion, and it was good to listen and ask you about yours. I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you. Fighting words.